Hello and welcome. My name's Lynn and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to Meaning, Magic and Money, Open to Receiving More. This talk is actually kicking off a book summit that I am a part of, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about that with you as I go on today. And it is for the book called Lead with Love. And today's one is the first of 8 presentations by some of the other co-authors in the book from women around the world who have done incredible things in their own life and really overcome transitions and challenges. And you'll hear about mine today to really come out the other side and learn what it takes to create abundance, joy, success, and connection in their own lives to a much greater degree. It's been an honor to be part of this collaboration with these women. One of them's on here today with me, Susie Forbes. Hi, Susie. And it's wonderful to have her here supporting as we are all doing with each other's presentations across the next 8 days. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of a context. Why are we here today? And of course, what I'm going to be sharing with you today is part of the inspiration behind my chapter inside the book as well. And I'll be sharing with you today the 5 shifts that have significantly changed my life. I had a pivotal breast cancer experience, which I'll be sharing some of the lessons I learned from that with you today, all towards you being able to create those in your own life and see if they're the things that you might need to do in order to create more joy, connection, abundance, and success in your own life as well. So this is my goal for today, is to really help you see how you can find more joy in life, even when things are hard. That's one of the fundamental things you'll discover inside the book as well. That's a thread that runs through everybody else's story. And you'll discover how to easily create more abundance and not have to work hard for it. And I've got a great story to share with you about that today. Live with more purpose, because part of today we want to talk about how do you create more meaning in your life. And for most of us, that's about really finding and leaning into our purpose in life. And that last one is experiencing more connection with yourself, with others, and also the divine. Now you can replace whatever word works for you in there, the universe, source, God. I use them interchangeably, as you'll see today. And this really does deepen our experience of life and our day-to-day joy. So I'll be sharing some more things about that as well. So in case we haven't met before, my name is Lynn Horde. I call myself the Copy Queen, and just a few stats to give you a little bit of the breadth and depth of my experience over the last couple of decades. I'm an intuitive coach and I've been coaching for 18 years. I'm a message and marketing mentor and I've been doing that inside my own business for 11 years now. I'm a self-development devotee, as I know all of the other women in the book are as well. And I've been devoted to that and really growing myself and evolving my soul for 20 years now. It's been a while. I've been at it for a while. And I'm also a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in August 2018, had 12 months of treatment. And then had to learn how to come back to life again. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to be sharing with you today. But I'm also a newly minted author. Hooray! I can't tell you guys, this was part of my dream. My childhood dream was to become an author. And I know that this is just the beginning for me. So I'm super excited to be talking to you today as part of the Lead with Love Book Summit, as I mentioned. And it's a co-authored collaboration with 16 other women, powerhouse women from around the world. And it's going to be out on February 4th. Pre-orders open today, and I'm going to be sharing a link with you at the end and a little bit more about the book if you'd like to get yours on pre-order and get that in your hot little hand so you can read all of the wisdom that it involves and includes. All right, so I'd love to know, and if you're here with me today, or if you are watching this on the replay, I'd love to hear. You can put it in the chat box, or just think about it for yourself if you're listening in. So I'd love to know, like, what is it that brought you here today? What was it about what you read, any posts that you saw, what is it that led you to come today? I'd love to know. Please feel free to pop it into the chat box, or again, just have a think about it. If you if you are listening on the replay. And I'm always interested because, of course, I'm going to be covering a diverse array of things today. And I know I've talked about like meaning, magic, and money, and it could be like which of those in particular, are you looking for more of in your own life? Susie, right, keen to hear more about your story and what you are passionate about. Whoa, I'm glad you're here then, Susie, because you'll be getting plenty of that. Thanks, lovely. All right, so the 5 shifts, as I said, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 shifts today. We're going to be here for about 60 minutes. I'm going to do my best to move through these reasonably efficiently. Guys, I'll be honest, I sometimes do go off on tangents because I do invite the divine to join me whenever I do a presentation. And if I get a nudge to go down a little offshoot, a little tangent, I will go with it, but I always know where I am and I will come back. So I always trust that whatever it is that I'm sharing, whoever gets to listen to this, everyone will take away at least one, if not hopefully more, nuggets from what I am sharing today. And those 5 shifts, as I said, the goal is to help you create more joy, more alignment, more abundance, connection, and success in your own life, because these shifts are what have supported me to create more of that in my own life. So I'm speaking to you today very much from personal experience, what I have moved through, what I have learned, and what I have implemented in my life in order to create the changes that have allowed for more of this, for me to experience more of this over time and in my everyday. So let's dive in. So I had fun coming up with the names for these because it's not always what it says on the tin, guys, and I'll explain that to you as we go on. So shift number 1, my friends, is stop holding on for dear life. A little bit of context about the cancer journey. So as I said, I was diagnosed in August 2018. I was living in the UK. I'd been there, I think, for about 9 years by that point. I'd started my own business when I was living in the UK. My diagnosis came as a complete shock. No worries, Simone, great to have you here. Getting diagnosed with breast cancer came as a complete shock to me because I am someone who is healthy, I am active, I eat well. I might have mentioned all of that self-development work I've done. So I did a lot of clearing and energy work and inner healing and inner child healing and shadow work. Like I'd done the energetic work, I'd done quite a lot of it. So I was like, how on earth could I get breast cancer? So it was quite a shock for me. But one of the things I now know, obviously I didn't know this then, was, and I've had many messages from the universe to tell me, before I got diagnosed with breast cancer, the universe was trying to get into my life, into my energy, into my world. It was trying to support me so hard, but it couldn't get in. Right? And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I was holding on so tightly to life. And I'll speak to you in a second about what that actually means. Holding on so tightly to life, I was tightly wound. I felt anxious a lot of the time. I certainly had underlying levels of anxiety, and I didn't really believe that if I didn't hold on to life, things would work out for me. But here's the thing, I was holding on to life and things still weren't working out for me in the way that I wanted to. Anyone else relate to that? I was doing all the right things. I felt like I was following all the rules. If my mentor said to me, do this, I did it. I was an action taker and I was absolutely like, why the hell is this not working, universe? And if you'd met me when I was 40, before I got diagnosed at 41, just the 2 days after I turned 41. So if you'd met me when I was 40, like on the outside, I absolutely looked like things were going well. I mean, and they were, but nothing was really moving the needle, and I didn't understand why. I wasn't, I certainly was not lucky in love. That was a really challenging part of my life. My business was good, but it was really stagnant. I couldn't make it grow. I just always felt like there was something missing for me on the inside, and I just really couldn't understand why. So that was kind of the context of where I was at. If you'd looked at me, you're like, oh, yeah, she's successful. And, I probably was on paper, but on the inside, I didn't necessarily feel like that. I still felt like life was really hard. And I didn't understand why it wasn't getting easier, considering all the things I felt I was doing. Can anyone relate to that? Yes, Susie, all the shoulds. Yes. Nodding, yes, wagtails nodding in there. Great. So that was kind of the context, of this first shift was knowing that, I was really holding on for dear life. And one of the things that when it came to this experience was I had no choice but to let go. I'll say that again. I had no choice but to let go. Because once you jumped onto the cancer train, it was off like a train, express train, and you just had to roll with it. And I'll be honest, one of the strange things about that was in some ways it was relief because I didn't have a choice. I actually had to let go. And it was probably the first time in my life when I really truly did that because I had no choice. There was this massive thing that I had to deal with. So it's almost like everything else in life had to fall away. And that was part of the entire process that I went through. It wasn't just I let go, but I had to let go of who I was, how I saw the world, how I saw myself. And I'll be sharing more about those specific pieces as I go along as well. So that was kind of the context. And with this first shift, I really felt like the buck stopped with me. So I couldn't let go. I couldn't relax completely because if I didn't keep going and keep trying to control everything, if I did let go, I felt like there was nothing there to catch me. And by that, I mean the universe. I did not believe that the universe was there and it was going to catch me. I believe in the universe. I didn't believe it would catch me. I felt like it was going to just, here's the safety net, Lynn. And then when you let go, I'm going to rip that away and you're going to go crashing onto the floor. And I was like, okay. And that was how I actually felt on the inside. So, of course, I never let go, which is why one of the reasons that breast cancer showed up for me. One of the things I knew from the very beginning when it came to this, I just knew it in my bones. I knew that this experience was here for me. It wasn't happening to me. I never saw myself as a victim. Don't get me wrong, I railed against it quite a lot. But I always knew that when I came out the other side, it would serve me in so many ways that I wouldn't even be able to, I would never be able to guess at, during the experience. And that was the very first piece in me letting go, right? Was me actually choosing to believe and know in my bones that this experience was truly here to serve me in some way. Has anyone else had that experience as well? When something happens and, you get to look at it, how you get to choose how you look at it. And have you had that experience where when you do choose to go, this is here for me in some way, no matter how bad it is, it really supports you through that experience. Has anyone else had that? Yeah, great. Oh, thanks for nodding, Susie. I appreciate it. And that's one of the biggest shifts as well. Because I had that visceral experience, I had to let go because I had no choice. And then I got to see what happened when I did, right? And the next shift, we'll talk more into that one. But for me, one of the kind of key stories I wanted to share in this first shift was this idea of letting go. For me, was all about the idea of surrender. Now, anyone who'd ever said that to me beforehand, it's the I get to instead of I have to. Absolutely, Susie. I love that. The idea of surrender, I don't know about you, but anytime anyone had ever said that to me beforehand, and I'd heard it many times in the spiritual circles and self-development, it's like, you've got to learn how to surrender, Lynn. Just surrender, Lynn. And I'm like, I honestly would roll my eyes anytime everybody said that to me because it's like, oh, come on. Like, what is this bloody surrender thing? I feel like I do it. What is going on? And I'd been going through, so my treatment went for 12 months, right? So my first 6 months was chemo treatment. Then I had my single mastectomy and reconstruction operation, which was a 10-hour on the table, 10-hour operation. And then it was at least 2 months of recovery for me to actually be able to stand upright again because my stomach tissue was removed in order to rebuild my breast. And so by this point, so this is the point I got to. So I'd recovered after my 2 months and finally could stand upright because it was so tight. I was hunched for a long time before I could really stand tall again. And I got to this point and I was like, man, I have kicked the ass out of this experience. Like I'm still here, I'm still going. And my friend, who's very highly intuitive and really in touch, she says to me, she came up to see me for lunch and she says, Lynn, you still have some more surrender to do. You guys can guess how I answered that one, right? There was an eye roll, and I was like, you've got to be effing kidding me. More surrender? Do you not think I already have? And she's like, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot me. So little did I know, a few days later, I went into my final treatment, which was radiation therapy, just to make sure. So I got all my oncology back, pathology back from the operation and the removal of my breast tissue. And it showed up there was no cancer left. The chemo had killed it all. So they said, Lynn, we still recommend you do radiation therapy in case, there's anything that we've missed. If there's a couple of rogue cells or something, we want to make sure it's all gone. And I'm like, okay, I'm already committed to this train. We've been on here a long time. We'll do this one final thing. The radiation therapy went for 15 days straight. I had to go and I was on board. And then, so day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I show up every day. I get my treatment and I go home again. And on day 5, something was really different. And when I got onto the table to have my treatment, and get that radiation into me. It's a really, sterile environment. I'm in a room all by myself, on a metal table. I'm naked from the waist up. My arms are above my head, so it's a very vulnerable position. And on this day, which was different to the others, was I was incredibly anxious. I really had trouble sitting still. And what I was going on in my mind was that I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, why am I here? Am I doing more damage to my body than I need to? Like, I've been given the all clear. Like, why am I doing this? And all of a sudden, I started to really question and doubt what I was doing. And I was fearful that it was going to be causing me more harm than good. And for the first time ever, I feel like I really knew I couldn't move, right? The machine had started. I could not move, or else that radiation was going to hit somewhere it shouldn't. So, or that wasn't planned. So I was like, okay, the only thing I felt like I could do in that moment was really be with those feelings and the sensations and the emotions I had inside me. And so I just sat and basically told myself the truth lying there on the table. And I said, I don't want to be here. I am afraid that I'm causing myself more harm than good. I just admitted the truth that was inside me that I had probably been avoiding for a little while. And then it was really miraculous. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but when I finally shared all of that, it was like I had a moment, and you're like, well, it was like the clouds had cleared. It was like it was like like a storm. I felt like I was in a storm, and then just not verbalizing because I was on the table, saying the self, telling myself the truth in my head, just expressing everything that was there that I didn't really want to admit to myself. It was like the clouds parted, and I experienced a sense of peace. And all of a sudden, it was like the answers came in. They were on the outside of the cloud, but I couldn't reach them. The cloud cleared, and I could really feel the answers like landing into me. I'm doing this because I want to live. I'm doing this because I want to survive for a very long time, and I'm doing this to ensure that I have a future. And that experience finally taught me what surrender actually meant. Because I thought surrender meant give up, right? Give up. And that's not, I don't have a bone in my body that wants to give up, especially not when you're fighting for your life. But what I finally realized and what made sense to me when it came to surrender was discovering that surrender, what you're surrendering is your resistance to the truth of your current experience, right? So surrender to the truth that's right here and present for you right now. This is one of the greatest skills that I have learnt through that experience. And it's something I teach in my own programs now because it is so incredibly powerful when we turn and face what it is we are truly feeling, what we truly want, and what we truly think. Because a lot of the time, certainly I'll speak for myself, I've tried to avoid, I've numbed myself out, I've kept myself busy, I've stayed in my head to avoid how I've really felt about things because sometimes that felt too challenging or too overwhelming or just too much. I didn't know how to handle the emotion. Let me know if you can, relate to this experience. But the shift here for me was understanding that surrender is a daily part of our life, surrendering to the truth that we have inside of ourselves that sometimes we don't necessarily want to admit. So that was one of my biggest initial shifts. And the what that changed though, this is why I'm so passionate about sharing this concept in everywhere I can, because when we do that, we get to move forward so much faster. We get to be brave and really like be with ourselves, which is not something a lot of humans are always able to do. And by be with ourselves, I mean what we actually feel, think, and want. So that truth, it really opens the door to everything else I'm going to be sharing with you today as well. This is like the very first thing. Can you tell yourself the truth? Can you surrender to the reality that you're experiencing? So this is the first shift that I really feel incredibly passionate about. Thank you for that word, Susie, because I'm like, that's what it is. That's what I feel about this concept. And the way we get to apply it is just really learning to be with our feelings, because when we can be with our truth, then we have choice. Then we have choice about how we go about life. And here's the other big humdinger about this one, guys, is if you want more flow, being in resistance takes you out of flow. When we are resisting our truth, it takes us out of flow. When we surrender to our truth, we get back into flow. Even if it feels uncomfortable, you are getting back into flow. And boy, am I feeling the zing for this one right now. I call them truth tingles. This is a big one. So this, if you want more flow, surrender to the truth of your experience, guys. This is a biggie. And I've probably taken way too long to share that with you. But honestly, this shift is the biggest and the first one, right? So this is the trick, really turning to face your own feelings and the truth of your experience. Practice letting go of control with this one. What do the do? Practice letting go of control and surrendering to your truth. So that's the first shift and the key to supporting yourself to create that in your own life. So shift number two is realizing that the buck does not stop with you. So I already hinted to this a little bit, but this is all about really believing that that safety net, aka the universe or source or God, however you like to talk about it, is truly there and supporting you. I don't know about you, but I certainly have spent all of my life pretty much up until I was 40 and had this, massive epiphany inside my cancer journey. I really did think that the buck stopped with me, and I just felt so alone. It was one of my biggest Achilles heels. I felt so alone in life, even when I was surrounded by people, even when I had incredible friendships, even when I was with someone. I just always felt so alone, and it really hampered my ability to show up and also say yes to life, because there was a part of me that was like, well, sure, I can say yes to life, but I'm still alone. Right. And we fundamentally desire connection. We want to be in relationship with other people. But though the two fundamental relationships that I was not strong in was the one with myself, not strong enough in, was the one with myself and the one with the divine. And it was because I didn't trust in the universe to show up for me. And I mentioned earlier about that conversation I had, well, I don't know if I actually did. I had a conversation with my spiritual mentor a couple of months before I got diagnosed, and I was sharing with her I didn't understand why things weren't working out for me, considering all that I had done. And she said to me, it's like, because you haven't learnt to trust in the universe yet. You're still thinking that you have to do this all by yourself. You're still behaving like you have to do this all by yourself and it's all on your shoulders. And so the first step came in. She said, if you don't let go and learn how to surrender, you can't come into trust. And trust was a really difficult piece for me. And I honestly believe that the universe was like, all right, if you're not going to trust us, we're going to give you an experience 12 months long where you have to lean on us like nothing you've ever done before. And I can't tell you the amount of, like, by the time I finished my 12 months of treatment, I had absolutely no doubt that I could trust the universe. It showed up for me in ways I could not have even believed. The two that I really just want to share because they still blow my mind is I was doing a spiritual program about 2 years before I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And there was a particular month where we were told, look for all of the signs and take action on it. I said, I was living in London and I saw ads for Vitality health insurance on buses, in the tube. I saw so Vitality had their mascot was a sausage dog. I saw them in real life everywhere. It was crazy town. I couldn't turn and not see something that reminded me of Vitality insurance. So I was like, okay, no problem. I will sign up. I don't know why, because I'm healthy. I go to the gym. Like I was like, oh, it's the last thing I would have thought, I would need. And I thought maybe I'm going to get pregnant later, or maybe I'm going to break my leg, and I'll need some private insurance. Fair enough. So little did I know, of course, that I was going to end up with breast cancer. And when I called to say, am I covered for it? Because I didn't know, because it's not something I checked when I bought it. She said, when was your cover started? And I said, I gave her the date. And she's like, oh, great. You, as of, I think it was 1 week ago, you were covered for breast cancer. I was like, holy shit. Okay. Right. So universe set me up for that one. It still blows my mind. I was like, oh my God, 2 years. And 1 week later, I actually go to them. And then I was like, yeah, now you are covered. I was like, okay, that's incredible. And then the other thing that they did for me, and as I said, I really felt from the beginning that they were like, you have to go through this. You signed up for it. We're going to make it as easy on you as we can. And I didn't have a car, and I was living outside of London. I knew I would need a car to get to all of my appointments. And I didn't have enough cash. Mum and Dad said, no problem. Here's, at the time it was £3,000. They said, here's £3,000. You can get a secondhand car for that. I'm like, yeah, no problem. One of my best friends, her partner was in the car industry, and he was always buying and selling cars. So I was like, here's my first port of call. I'll give Russell a call. So I call Russell. I'm like, Russell, I need a car. I've got £3,000. Do you happen to have your, finger on one that I could buy that you'd recommend? He's like, yeah, no worries. I've got an Audi TT in the driveway you can have for that money. You could have heard my jaw hit the floor, guys. If you're not a car person like me, just so you know, an Audi TT is a two-door sports car. It goes very fast, and let me tell you, I tested that out many a time. It has red leather interiors, mag wheels, awesome sound system. So I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, yeah. Like I just bought it and I was going to just fix it up and resell it. You can have it. And I was like, oh my God. And I could feel my guides like just smiling at me because they were like, look, we didn't say you couldn't have some fun, even though you're going through this traumatic experience. I was like, oh, I love you so much. And it was really incredible. And that was just like two things out of so much that happened, across that time. And there's a part of me that is sad to say that this is the kind of experience that it took for me to, trust in the universe. And I don't really feel sad about it because, life unfolds as it unfolds. But, and I wanted to share with you that whatever it takes, this shift into greater levels of trust is one of the pivotal experiences that opens us up to receiving more, because when we've let go of control, when we've surrendered to our truth and we are back into the flow, when we really trust in the universe to provide for us, whether things are going really well or really badly. And again, anything that's bad that shows up is still serving us in some way. When we get to really trust, it unlocks a fundamental like portal inside of us that really does allow us to receive more. Does anybody else relate to that? How do you go? Let me know in the comments if you like. How do you go with trusting in the universe? And I'll say, guys, I know that this one isn't easy, but I will, sing from the rooftops the power of it. And you can just start really small. As an example, in my family, my dad and I talk about parking angels. Anybody else got fantastic parking angels? Yes, amazing. And so for like most of my life, I watched my dad, and he would go when I was younger, he'd be like, "Don't worry, love," because my mum doesn't believe in parking angels or thinks she's got them. It really annoys her that she thinks that we do. But the only difference is that we trust and we know that there's going to be a space. And it's that knowing on the inside, right? So when I go out, mum's like, "Oh, it's a busy time. You won't get a park." I'm like, "Mum, I'll get a park. I've got good parking angels. You know this." Much to her annoyance. And so that is that knowing on the inside. So the trust becomes that knowing on the inside that you are being supported always, in some way, even if you can't see it right now. And developing this trust is really crucial shift for all of us. And it is just simply, and I know it's not a simple process, I can certainly speak from experience, but really it comes down to asking and allowing yourself to receive. But allowing is looking for it, like looking for that receiving in whatever way it can be. And that's part of that building trust. Like, okay, parking angels, I know I'm going to find a spot, and just waiting and knowing, right? And it doesn't mean that you don't rock up and there it is all of a sudden. We sometimes have to wait to receive what we have asked for. Yay, Peter Ann. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, because I could see that little, you were able to draw on my slide there. That's amazing. I don't know how that happened. Trust was my word for 2024, and I got too many opportunities to practice it this year. I'm being braver and connecting more deeply. Oh, I love that, Simone. Amazing. So this is the second fundamental shift. So after we've let go, after we've surrendered to the truth, it's like, what are we asking for? What are we going to be trusting in the universe to deliver to us? And that doesn't mean also that we don't do things, but it means that we trust that we are in a co-creation with the great divine and allow them to infuse and feed into us, where to go and what to do, and like, where might that parking spot be? Oh, perhaps it's in the next row. Oh, there it is. And that's where we're going to be another shift we're going to be talking about. So that's the second one that I wanted to talk to you about today. And which leads beautifully, of course, into this shift number 3. Who can relate to this one, guys? Your head is not your North Star, your heart is. I could probably put two hands up and 2 feet. All my fingers and toes are in the air for this one. So the brilliance of my cancer journey, of course, was I figured when I got to the end of it, that was it. I was changed fundamentally. And I just went to go and figure out how to live my life. But of course, it didn't quite work that way, because I actually had to figure out how to live differently. Before breast cancer, I was absolutely stuck in my head. And although I believe, I had good intuition, I did not give myself enough time or didn't understand the importance of living from my heart. When I finished my treatment, I actually got the big nudge to move back to Australia, and I did that. But what I didn't realize was I'd essentially gone back to living the way I had before. I was operating a lot from my head, even though I'd gone through that experience. Even so, even to the point where I think about 18 months out, a woman got in touch with me, and she also had survived breast cancer, and she wanted to become a coach to help women thrive after breast cancer. And she said, Lynn, let's have can I talk to you about your experiences? I'm like, sure, let's hop on the phone. And on the phone, she said to me, a lot of women afterwards, they find that they get lost. They feel lost. They're not sure how to recreate their life. And honestly, at the time, I did not relate. I'm like, oh no. As soon as I was done, I had plans. I knew where I was going. I was like, I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to create this in my business. I'm going to, move back to Australia. I was like, I knew what I was doing. I never felt lost. 6 months after that, I began to realize that shit. I have actually just fallen back into the ways that I knew beforehand because I was so traumatized that I couldn't bring myself to really sit with for a long time what I had actually been through and the impact it had had on me, and most importantly, who it had, who I had become as a result. It was too confronting for a long time. So it wasn't probably until a couple of years after, and I'd really recovered emotionally, that I began to think about, well, what do I really want? What does it mean for me to live from my heart? And the commitment that I finally made was, and I knew that the experience was really calling me to live a heart-led life all the time, not just when it suited me, not just, when I felt good or when it was convenient, but all the time. And again, it's not always easy because when you truly sit, connect to your heart, listen to it, you then need to act on what it is that your heart is calling you to do. And that's when things really started to get interesting in my life, even more interesting than they had already been. And that's when externally you started to see things. So I think probably for the first 2 years after my treatment, I cocooned myself. I moved back to Australia. I moved back to the town that I grew up in, and I led the most simplest life because I couldn't cope with anything more. And it was like, it had ripped me open, and I just didn't have capacity for people, for stress, for change, more than the move back to Australia, which was enough all by itself. And and I think it wasn't until actually April in the beginning of 2023 I could hear, and I'd done so much work on really connecting into my heart over that time, I could finally hear it say to me, all right, it's time to really start living. And still I hadn't realized that I hadn't been living. Oh, still a big one. But I really felt that calling, from my soul, so now I use heart and soul quite interchangeably because I believe the seed of the soul is in your heart. And, but that was the call for me. It was like, Lynn, we've got to live in the way your heart really wants to. And that's when things really fundamentally changed on the outside for me because I started making choices that led me to go traveling again. I finally left Australia again. Traveling is a big part of my heart and my soul. So I went traveling again. I went back to London and I saw all of my friends. I went to America. That was when I started being a digital nomad, and I haven't stopped. It's when I really looked at my business and said, what is it I truly want to offer? What do I really want to teach people? What do I really want to help them with? And I hadn't really admitted to myself, coming back to that idea of admitting our truth, that, I am here as a leader for people who want to live from their heart and soul and build businesses from that place as well. And I wasn't talking about that very much in my business. It was there, it was an undercurrent. Like when you worked with me, like you knew that. But externally, I'd shied away from letting people see the truth of, who I really was and what I believed in, what I was passionate about. So those shifts really started to change. And so essentially, guys, the first three things I've talked to you about, are what allowed me to go, okay, how do I really want to live? How am I being called to live? And when I took action on those things, I started to make more money in my business. I actually got back to feeling truly happy. So I had to recover, I think, for a long time until I could really live again. And that was extraordinary. I allowed myself to follow my dreams. And my life doesn't look like other people's, and they don't want the kind of life that I have. And that's what the beauty of really getting connected to and listening to your own heart is, because we all have our own path. We all have our own purpose. We all have the things that are going to make us truly happy as a soul. And when we really listen to our heart, when we make it our North Star, not our head, that's a real process, moving from our head to our hearts. I'm sure you can all agree, relate to that. But when we do, it fundamentally changes our energy and allows us to get into the flow, because our heart, listening to our heart, is where that flow comes from. That the whispers from our heart show us the path that we are designed and destined to walk. So this is a really crucial piece, but it requires us to let go. It requires us to admit our truths to ourselves of what we really want. And it requires us to trust that what our heart speaks for us is actually what is available and possible for us. So that's really the shift number 3, is really listening, connecting, and acting on our heart and making it our North Star as we go about life on earth. Does anyone relate to that? I haven't checked back to the I'm sure you guys all do. Yeah, so it's so strong. Without any specifics, I'm struggling with this at the moment. If you're and sorry, Simone, do you mean you're not getting specifics about what you need to do? Is that what you mean there? Yep, Peter, Anns, and me. This, yes. Yes, got it. Yes. So, and that's just, I would just encourage you to keep listening, creating space to allow both to come forth exactly. And Simone, when I'm listening to my heart, I don't always get the answers that I'm asking for, but I know if I just keep making the practice of connecting. So I journal every morning, and that is me connecting into my heart. I have a conversation with God. We just basically shoot the breeze in the morning, and I can feel myself come back in. I can feel my connection, and I know that really sets me up for the day. But I know through that practice alone, the answers that I need will come. Not necessarily in that practice, by the way. Like, it can come through a conversation with someone. It can come through a sign on the side of a bus, like it did for Vitality, right? So it's about really opening yourself to everything and everywhere, because the answers are coming. And you might not get it straight away. I don't always, but I know it will come. I trust that it will come. So I hope that helps, my love. And I'm really happy to have a conversation with you separately. I'd love to support you with that if you'd like some help with it. True patience. Yes. Yes. I'm not talking about that today, but yes, that's been a big lesson for me too, guys. All right. So this is the key, right? Connecting, listening, and acting on your heart's guidance, and finding those techniques that support you to do it. And it is the repetition, it is the consistency that really connects you deeply to your heart. I didn't always used to be able to do it, right? But I can do it like this now, because I have I've been dedicated, I devoted myself to really getting that relationship with my heart and soul loud and clear. So, but it took time. All right. So shift number 4 is a natural lead on from that, because who we were taught to be is not who we are. I know you guys will all understand and relate to this one. And one of the massive things when it came to all of my treatment was because I had to sit still, because I didn't have the energy to be the person I would normally be. It was incredibly confronting, because I couldn't show up in the ways I thought I needed to in order to get what I wanted and needed from other people. And it was really confronting to admit that, right? I was like, oh, shit. I felt like I had to give in order to receive. I had to be the listener in order to one day ask somebody to listen for me. And, I said to one of my best friends, I broke down in tears. It was just like a month in. And I said to her, look, I can't show up for you in the same way that I would normally. I said, I'm really afraid that you're going to disappear, you're just going to leave. Like, I was just devastated. I thought everybody was just going to leave me because I could not show up and give to them in the way I had. And she said to me, my friends call me Hordy, that's my last name. And she said to me, Hordy, I'm not going anywhere. She's like, I'm in this for as long as you are. Until to this day, it still reaches my heart. Oh, and it was just one moment in so many where I began to see that I was, lovable for who I was, who I am, who my essence, I didn't have to be a certain way, but I had to drop so many of those masks, and those ways of being and the ways I saw myself in order to be able to show up authentically. And this is the fourth shift, was that once all of those things dismantled and I went through a 6 month period, and I call it the shedding, because it showed me all of the things, all of the ways of being that were not who I was. And it was, as I said, incredibly confronting. But when we listen to our heart, which was the shift before, then the next one is to be authentically expressed, like to go out into the world and share our wisdom, our insights, our experiences, our essence, because this is part of our gift, but it's also how we develop that sense of meaning. It's how we feel fulfilled, right? Because we get to go out there and be who we truly are and be received and recognized for that. And that has been my experience. The more I have shown up in my authenticity, in my vulnerability, the more I have been received, the more the right people have found me, both friends and just people I meet on the street, as well as like in my business. But it takes courage to express ourselves authentically. And it also requires us to it lost my train of thought for a second there. I love that you have and still do this. Thank you, Beauty. I appreciate that, Simone. It requires courage for us to do this. And it also requires, and I'll say the word fortitude, because particularly as women, we've been taught so many ways that we need to be. And some of the biggest ones that we are afraid of are being disliked, being rejected, and upsetting other people. And finding my way to release those things has been part of the work after cancer. It was like I became aware of all of those things and how I showed up and put masks on and was did things that weren't necessarily authentic to me, because I felt like that's what I needed to do. And then they all dismantled, but I still had to develop the internal courage and fortitude to be able to show up and truly have the courage to express my truth. And what I really want, what I really think, and what I really feel. We come back to those three things, guys: knowing what they are, trusting them, and being able to express them out into the world. So for me, this has been, the work, I would say, of the last 2 years, particularly because the biggest piece for me was sharing a lot of the stuff around, what I learned about myself and these pieces, inside my cancer journey. And it hasn't always been easy, but I know I was given this experience in order to open windows so that other people could find these places within themselves, and recognize that they actually can be truly and fully and freely loved by being their authentic self. They don't need to be other, right? So that's the work for us, is to release as much as we possibly can. And no, it's an ongoing journey. I'm sure you all guys, we're all still on the path for that. But the power, so if we want to be empowered women, right? If we want to be empowered leaders, expressing ourselves authentically is one of the biggest shifts into us embodying that in our lives and in our, life as well. So do you guys relate to that one as well? I'm sure you do. I know that all my people are here. And it's an ongoing piece for sure. And this is for me, it was that, the simple practice. And again, I'm sharing you like, this is the cereal box, the cereal box solution with you, like on the slide here, of course. But we know this is a work of daily and consistently, uncovering our own stuff and being courageous enough to be who we are. It's just those small things in an email that you send to people, in a conversation you have with your partner or your sister or your friend, taking the courage to really share what's true for you, what you really, I think, what you really feel and what you really want as well. All right, so much. Yes, amazing. All right. So I'm on to shift number 5 now, guys, and this is a really juicy one. I understand that some of you might need to leave. We're almost at the hour. If you do, I understand. I'll be sending out a replay. We're almost there, guys. We're on the home stretch. All right, so this final shift didn't actually happen for me until much it didn't happen inside the cancer journey. It was everything that we've talked about was what opened the window to this. But one of the things I was having a call with my spiritual mentor. This is a woman who's been in my life for decades, and we have a call once a year, every one or twice a year, and I check in with her. Her name is Lynette. And I think about 2 years after I finished treatment, we were having a conversation. And I was talking to her about something, and I was like, so in my business, one of the things that I have often find a challenge is really growing my audience. And as we know, that's a surface thing about things underneath. And I said to her, look, can you help me understand like what that's about? And she said to me, she's like, Lynn, you went through, your incredible breast cancer journey. And it was the greatest experience of flow in your life. The universe showed up for you endlessly. And you were quite happy to receive all of that, weren't you? And I said, well, of course. And she's like, why? And I was like, well, because I was sick. So of course the universe was going to show up for me, right? And she's like, uh-huh, right. So tell me about the difference between healthy Lynn and sick Lynn. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, do you feel like so obviously when you went through cancer, you felt like you deserved that kind of support, that care, that compassion from the universe, life, and everyone around you. And I'm like, well, yes, I did. She's like, do you feel like you deserve that now? Oh, and the truth was, I didn't. I didn't believe that healthy Lynn deserved that kind of support from the universe. I didn't believe I was worthy of that kind of support unless I was sick. And she said to me, Lynn, this is one of your final hurdles. This piece around self-worth and believing that you are innately deserving of everything the universe could possibly bring you, deserving of everything you could possibly want to manifest in your life. She's like, you need to believe on the inside that you deserve it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went away knowing that that was the thing that I needed to work on. And I leaned into the tool, the skill that I had learned that I told you about in the first shift, which was really turning to face myself and discover what was happening on the inside. What was the truth that I wasn't willing to admit? And so one day I sat down with myself and my journal and used her question as a way in. And I was able to get inside and reach some parts of me who believed that we weren't deserving of, success. We weren't deserving of, any of love. We weren't really deserving of greater, experiences and joy and abundance in life. And I said to that part of me, and it obviously took a little while, I went through a process, but I said to that part of me, why do you feel like you're not deserving? Like, I knew I was a child of God. So why do you think you don't deserve, you're not worthy of everything you could receive? And this part said to me, because I am a vile, disgusting creature. I am a vile, disgusting creature. So why would I ever be deserving of God's benevolence. And I was like, holy shit. I hadn't seen this part of myself before. And the feelings when I tapped into it, like the shame that waves and waves and crushing shame came to me. But because I've developed, as I talked about, that ability to be with my feelings and what's going on inside of me, I just sat there and let that shame crash around me. And once I let it all settle, I was able to step just to the side of this part of me. So it's like I could speak to the part of me that thought I was, vile and disgusting. And in that moment, like I knew it was like that part was in front of me. I was separate from it, and I knew the thought was there, but we are a spark of the divine. Like we are a child of God. So where is that thought coming from? Where is that belief? Why on earth would I have that belief? And in that moment, I realized it was because that belief created separation from me and God. That was why I had it. Whether you want to call it from ego or I brought it down through my ancestry, why or where it came from doesn't really matter. The awareness is that it was a belief and I didn't have to keep it. And the reason it existed was so that I could stay separate from God, right? There was a part of me that wanted to keep myself separate from God. So in that moment, I began to bring some light, surrounding that belief, because some of those things you can't just, yank out. You need to create space around them in order for them to shift. And I began to speak to that part of myself because I could see all the pieces. I'm a child of God. You think that we are vile and disgusting, yet that's just keeping me separate. It's not true. And it's just keeping me separate from the real God's truth that I am a child of God, the universe, of source. And over time, I kept working with that part and I could feel it slowly dissolve, right? I just kept speaking to that part of me, going, no, we are a child of God. Like that's just a thought that's keeping you separate. And what happened was when I could see that was its purpose, it began to dissolve quite rapidly. And then I was able to, because the reason we do this kind of work is when we get to dissolve it, we get to come back to the way we really are, right? Which is connected to our divine spark. And that was what happened over time. And I'm not saying that I still don't have some pieces around this to do, but I have experienced a significant shift in knowing how worthy I am of God's love, of other people's love, of the goodness that comes into my life, of the success that I create for myself, of receiving more money, more abundance. And as I have dissolved this and built my internal self-worth, I have seen all of this increase in my life. It's been quite magical, which is part of the reason I put that inside the title, because it's that piece inside us, that disinformation or the belief that we have, and it's designed to keep us separate from our true connection to God and to ourselves. So this is the final shift, right? And I believe everyone has work to do around this. And again, that was why I'm not worried so much about this piece, about where it comes from, because whether it's like ancestral, cultural, or from this lifetime, it's still something that we can work on and see for ourselves. And this is a big thing. I've had help with this, that moment, the moment I've just shared with you was something I did on my own because of the skills I had developed to be with my own emotions and really sink into my own truth. But sometimes we need support for this kind of work. But the key thing I want you to realize is that often it is just a belief that's inside of us that stops us believing that we are truly worthy and deserving of more meaning, more magic, more money, more joy and abundance. And when we release ourselves, we come into from that belief, we release ourselves into true magnetism. It really releases from our field, like our energetic presence, a new radiation, no, a new resonance, that's the word, a new resonance that attracts the things that we want to us. So this is a really crucial key and the final shift. And I hope today that you've been able to see how these pieces have built on themselves. And that final thing here is like really learn to start questioning those thoughts and fundamentally heal your connection or your relationship with the divine. And that can take time, so it's not a don't worry about where you are right now. Just begin to get curious about, well, how can I grow and deepen those connections? Okay. Great. Thank you, Susie. I appreciate you. Thanks for being with me. All right, so guys, that's the 5 shifts that I wanted to share with you today. So on this little slide, I have given them all to you as a little wrap up. Feel free to take a screenshot if that's helpful for you. So that shift number 1 was learning to let go and surrendering to the truth of your reality. So you can stop self-protecting, stop holding on, and allow life to and be able to open up to the possibilities of life. That second one on the back of that is developing trust in yourself and the universe. So you can sink into true flow, really get into the flow of the universe and what it has in store for you. Number 3, really living from the heart, not the head. So you are in alignment with your soul's purpose, like you're really living it out into the world. Sharing your authentic self with the world is number 4. So you can be truly magnetic, right? There's nothing between you and the world, and you're just resonating at an incredibly high vibration. And then number 5, developing that inner knowing that you are a child of God and deserving and worthy of all of the goodness that life can bestow upon you. So those are the 5 shifts. I'd love to hear what your takeaway was. If you want to pop that into the chat box, I would love to hear. And that final thing, of course, as I said at the beginning, I'm here today in terms of as the first presentation kicking off our author summit for the Lead with Love book. I am one of 16 co-authors who are sharing the insights, wisdom, trials and triumphs inside this book so that we can support other people to really get connected to their heart, lead with love, and create more success, more abundance, and more connection in their and joy in their own lives. So the pre-order for the Kindle book is open today. It's just 99 cents per book. It won't stay that way forever. So if you'd love to support us and get in and buy this, pre-order the book, I'm just going to pop that link also into the chat box for you. If you are internationally, I know I have a lot of international listeners. So when you go to that page, scroll down the bottom to find links to your own country's Amazon sites. And please, please, I would love your support, as I know all of the other collaborators would as well. One of our goals is to get to the bestseller, onto the bestsellers list with this book, and really get this sent out widely to as many people as we can. So if you can support us, if you'd like to support us, please go ahead and pre-order the Kindle book for your 99 cents. And the paperback book will be coming out soon, and I will send an email when it's ready. It's just running a little bit behind. And if you have any comments or anything you want to share or anything you want to have more conversation with me about in terms of everything I've shared today, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. My email is hello@lynnhord.com, or else hop into my DMs. I'm a regular in there as well. Either way is good. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you, Simone. Oh, yes, Peter Ann, of course. Peter Ann on here is also one of the authors. She's had her own journey with breast cancer as well. Peter Ann, we need to connect, by the way. We've just met through this book collaboration as well. So thank you everyone who's watched, been with me today, anyone who has listened to the recording. Please reach out if you have questions, and please support us if you'd like to, and pre-order your Kindle book of Lead with Love. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope to see you somewhere around the traps again very soon. All right, beautiful friends. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you. Bye.